Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining me for the 6th episode in my series on the most important women in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today's segment is the 5th and last of a mini-series on Khadijah radiallahu anha, the first wife of our beloved Prophet. Khadijah's example is one that can be applied to all women at all stages of life. And I hope she can be an inspiration to all of you through the good times and the bad. She surely serves as a great role model for myself, and I speak for myself first and foremost as I try to emulate and embrace her in my character and my actions. She is a companion both men and women should revere and learn from. When we left off yesterday, the boycott was finally over, and the Muslims could finally go home and try to put their lives back together. Khadijah radiallahu anha stood by her husband through the struggles and the hardships and helped to take care of all of the people who had followed his message. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was extremely grateful to her, and he wasn't the only one. One day, Angel Jibreel descended upon him and said, "That is Khadijah bringing you a vessel containing food or drink. When you see her, convey to her salutations from her Lord and from me, and give her the glad tidings of a house in paradise, made of hollowed out pearl, in which there is neither noise nor fatigue." When the Prophet relayed this to her, she said, "Verily, Allah is peace, and upon Jibreel be his peace, and upon you his peace, mercy, and blessings." There are several explanations that say why her palace in paradise was specifically one where there's no noise or fatigue. Some scholars say it is because of all of the negative hearsay she endured and all of the physical suffering while supporting her husband's message. Others say it is because she didn't give him any noise or make him endure any fatigue when he told her about his message. Either way, she deserves it. Big time. At this time, Khadijah radiallahu anha was 65 years old, and the long boycott and time spent in the valley had taken a great toll on her health. It was not long before she fell ill, and her illness became steadily worse. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, felt her pain, and he was by her side, comforting her, encouraging her to be patient, supporting her, and reminding her constantly of the palace that awaits her in paradise. He continued soothing her until the moment when her noble soul departed, and she passed away in his arms. At her janazah, Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, descended into the grave and placed her in the grave himself, wanting to be the one who buried her, his first wife. The year that followed was called the year of sadness. It was the year that Abu Talib, his uncle, also passed away. Without Khadijah to support him, the dawah slowed down. Instead of having someone to comfort him from his naysayers, he would come home to an empty house. To his daughters, who reminded him so much of the love he had lost. The Muslims were so worried about the prophets as they saw him being consumed with overpowering grief this year. About a year after her death, a lady companion suggested to the Prophet that he get married, as it would be beneficial for him to have a woman help raise his daughters. Upon hearing this, the Prophet started to cry and said no woman could resemble Khadijah radiallahu anha. Even years later, when he eventually did start to marry again, as much as he deeply loved his other wives, especially Aisha, he never stopped loving his first love, Khadijah. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that not a single day went by when the Prophet didn't mention Khadijah and praise her. Aisha radiallahu anha said that she has never been jealous of another wife the way she was jealous of Khadijah. One day, her jealousy got the best of her, and she said, "Why do you keep thinking about that old woman? when Allah has given you in her place a younger and better than she?" The statement made the Prophet extremely angry, and he replied, "No, by Allah, Allah has not given me one better than she. She believed in me when all others disbelieved. She held me truthful when all others called me a liar. She sheltered me when others abandoned me. She comforted me when others shunned me. She shared her wealth with me when others denied me. Allah blessed me with children by her, while deprived me of children by other women." Aisha, wanting not to anger him any more than she already had, replied, "O Allah, if you remove your anger from your messenger right now, I pledge never to speak ill of her again as long as I shall live." The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Not until you ask forgiveness of Khadijah." 15 years after Khadijah's death, the Muslims had conquered Mecca, and as they arrived home, each one was begging the Prophet to stay at one of their homes. However, he kindly refused, asking them instead to set up a tent for him to sleep near Khadijah's grave. On that same day, as the Muslims were surrounding him and congratulating him on the victory, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was seen moving through the crowd and spreading his cloak on the ground for an old lady, with whom he sat and talked for an hour. When Aisha asked him who the lady was, he told her it was a friend of Khadijah. Another day, the Prophet was sitting with Aisha radiallahu anha when he heard a woman's voice resembling that of Khadijah's, asking if she could come in. The Prophet immediately said, "Oh Allah, please let it be Hala, Khadijah's sister." And when he found out that it was, he welcomed her warmly, saying, "Welcome, O Khadijah's sister, welcome." Aisha narrated that whenever he slaughtered meat or had any extra meat in the house, he would pass it out to his other wives and the poor, but he would always take extra care to present it to Khadijah's friends, as if there were no other women in the world but her. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would always say, "Her love was nurtured in my heart by Allah himself." Prophet Muhammad's strong love and high regard for his wife was so great that she was considered as great as Maryam radiallahu anha, mother of Isa alayhi salam. He said the best of her women of her time was Maryam, and the best of her women at this time was Khadijah. Khadijah radiallahu anha and Maryam were named of the 4 greatest women of all time, together with their daughter Fatima, who was their youngest yet the most dear to the Prophet, and lastly, Asiya, the wife of the Pharaoh who saved and cared for Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, continued to love Khadijah until the day he died. And we, as Muslims, continue to love her today, 1400 years later. The romance and the bond shared between the Prophet and his wife, Khadijah, is a true love story, one that stands the test of time. Allah shows us the importance of choosing a spouse who is on the same page with you, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and religiously. Inshallah, we will all be blessed with a beautiful relationship, as beautiful as that of Khadijah and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. A love that went on for years even after her death, that nothing could compare to. Inshallah, we should all strive to be at least 1/10 of the person Khadijah radiallahu anha was, as we put into action some of the things we have learned these past few days. As I close off this last episode in the series on Khadijah, I want to reiterate one more time. Khadijah was considered one of the 4 greatest women of all time. She was strong, she was independent, she was a businesswoman, a loving wife, a caring mother, and a resilient aide in the spread of Islam. She was outspoken in her community and set great examples of basically what most modern women attain to be. So what message is Allah sending us here? Certainly not that Muslim women should be silent and limited to the confines of the home, cooking and cleaning. Allah is telling us to be like Khadijah radiallahu anha, to be successful, to take care of our families, but have goals, have a message, a dream, and act upon it. Support what is right and don't be afraid to stand up against what is wrong, no matter how much you suffer. Let's all think about how much we can learn to adapt Khadijah's ways into our own lives, starting now. Inshallah. All right, brothers and sisters, that's it for today. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.